The reality is we went in pretty much knowing nothing. And then there was this like absolute panic rush to learn as much as possible.
And she was willing to take on a risk and literally crush herself and go bankrupt if she had to, just to save the company. And then that's when I thought, all right, I'm dealing with someone with balls of steel and someone I really admire and respect. And
we had to take that hit on the chin, and we decided to say no to their lesser deal and said, no, we would rather trust ourselves than trust you. We've been through hard times. We can do it again.
Welcome everyone. I've got Tim Laurence here from Plan, now working at Linktree. We're here to recount our journey of getting Plan started off the ground and then achieving a really great exit. We're going to shoot the breeze. Tim's actually an old mate of mine. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks, John. Nice to be here. As you said, so my name's Tim Laurence. We went to school together.
Yes.
We've been in touch ever since. And when my wife and I started the business, we chose you to be our accountants, and very grateful for that.
Yeah.
So to give you a little bit of the background of us and the business and when we started, for everyone else as well, we started Plan, or I should say Christy started Plan in 2015. So she was working in corporate and she hated it. And she didn't want to be in corporate anymore. She grew up in an entrepreneurial family and wanted to do something for herself. And the way that it started was that she actually started drawing on Instagram, started selling some artwork through there and started making a bit of money. And she thought, this is really exciting and I'm really glad that I can make money from here. Maybe I can do more from it. And we just said, like, quit your job.
Yep.
And
crazy.
Took the leap. So we started with that in 2015, established an actual business in 2016, which is when I think I started working with you. We created a company.
Yeah.
And now it's like...
Well, from my perspective, it was crazy because, like, I see you... Like Timmy Laurence we're just two Bankstown boys at the end of the day from Western Sydney in the early days. True. We're two Bankstown boys here. Like, it's crazy to have, we're two Bankstown boys sitting here from back in the days talking about a tech startup and exit, 20 years, 30 years later, whatever. But yeah, we went to school together and then you approached me and you're like, my wife's got this brilliant idea and Christy comes in, she's great and she's got this huge idea and it's a tech startup. And, the obvious problem from my perspective, the way I remember it, was that Christy wasn't someone who was technical. Like, she wasn't someone who could build an app or a website, right? And I'm like, how on earth are you guys going to, a great idea, how on earth are you guys going to build a business when build an app or a website when you wouldn't know the first thing about that?
The funny thing is, along the whole way, especially at the beginning, Christy was like, there's 2 million apps in the App Store, can't be that hard.
Yeah.
And it was that hard, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anyone. It absolutely was that hard. But to begin with nothing and no knowledge, she just started with like YouTube and then started finding contractors on like Upwork and Fiverr, those platforms where you can find people. And the actual solution that she came up with in the end was she found a web agency and swapped time for code in the end. She did their marketing. She's a really talented marketer. And they built the first iteration that went on the Google Play Store back in, I think it would have been like November 2015. And she was just set up as a sole trader at that point. We didn't really know what we were doing at all, but it was a beginning. Yeah. And the key thing for success at that very front point, she knew from the marketing perspective, was like to do a product launch and to be successful, you need to have excitement building already. So she knew how to generate excitement on Instagram. She started reaching out to people, started talking about her app. We're showing screenshots of what it could look like. And on the first day that she launched, she made $10,000.
Wow.
And that was a one-off purchase. And that's literally all from generating interest before launch, pre-launch.
So you approached me the way I remember it, and you were operating as a sole trader. And then I'm like, there was a lot of opportunities here, a lot of things we can be looking at, tax side of things, structuring side of things, R&D, all these things. So what was it that, how do you think the accounting journey for you was, how did that hinder or support the growth of the business?
My background's finance. So I did 10 years working with financial advisors and accountants. I knew a lot. I knew enough to be dangerous, is the way I like to put it.
Yep.
One of the things I knew is that we needed to structure something, because if we want to be successful, which was the plan to be successful, pun intended,
Yes.
is we need to do it right from the beginning. And that was a hard choice, because we knew being a sole trader doesn't cost you really anything.
That's right. Low cost.
So you're set up. But if we want to be a business, you need to be a company. And I knew I didn't know how to set any of that up. And I knew you.
Yeah.
Johnny, help me out.
Give me a buzz. Yeah. So you guys come in and we're like, okay, we had some problem. Like if I look at the journey from startup to exit, and what was the theme from my perspective for you as a client, it was how are we going to always get plan over these constant hurdles and setbacks. And this is what like startup life is like. It's like setback, financial constraint, profit and loss issues. And it's like, how do we fight all those battles whilst trying to build this killer business? And, like one of our earliest hurdles was Christy's working, but she's not getting paid because she's working for someone in lieu of code or in lieu of the app getting developed, yet she's in an R&D space. And then how do we codify this, and how do we do the accounting around that, and how do we get the tax incentives? And it's like we had to literally go to the drawing board from day one to get the accounting right, so you guys could get the support you were entitled to.
One of the things that we explored with you was how we would set up the business ownership structure, and we talked about having a family trust at one point, and for a multitude of reasons that didn't really make a lot of sense.
Yep.
And we also talked about simplicity, because we wanted to be very easy for us to manage. So we did a one single share owner structure as a company. We put it in Christy's name. I ended up being a director later on as well. But what I actually remember is the difficulty it was to commit to paying to set that up.
Yes.
That was one of the first challenges was. And to be fair, I can't remember, it was like $2,000 or like $6,000, or it was $8,000. It was like that.
Yeah,
for
it
us,
wouldn't have been that much, but it feels like that. It must have felt like that
at
much.
the time, we're like, this is a big commitment. Like, why should we even do this?
It was like $1,200 or something back then, but I was like, here's so much money. Yeah.
It was like $1 million you're asking for.
Yeah, that's right.
That's ridiculous. So it felt like a lot of money to do that right. But again, I knew that it was important to have the right structure from the beginning.
Yep.
And so I'm grateful for us setting it up that way.
Yeah.
And then there was sort of every day these battles for survival and startup, which you know as well.
Yeah.
So
I want to quiz you on some of that. But from my perspective, something that I never forget this part of plan, I was always looking at the numbers, and my feedback to you and Christy all the way through was, guys, you're not taking any profits off the table. I remember literally being away doing in the Philippines, outside my room on the phone to you saying, Tim, bro, you guys are making so much revenue and you're pumping it all back into the business. When are you going to take I go, Tim, please, bro, just $100,000. Just take $100,000 off the table. Take $200,000 off the table.
Yeah,
and you're like, nah. You're like, bro, I swear, it was like a Clint Eastwood level of cool. You're like, nah, bro, we're just going to put the money back in and we're going to keep growing it. Where do you get that mindset? It was like, we're just going to grow. We're going to grow. We're not going to take money out and just keep reinvesting and believing.
That's a good question. And it's sort of interesting because we were bootstrapped the entire way. So we were completely custom funded is one of the words that we used to use. Yep. We lived and died by our customers. The difference is that we live in a culture, especially in tech, of VC money, which is like boom or bust, unicorn or die. And we still had a bit of that mentality, which is like we're going all in, and either it's going to be great or it's going to be nothing. And so we had to start from the beginning. It was that way. And so when Christy was doing this full time, because I didn't quit my full-time job until 2018. So we were one salary, all in, let's see how we go. So it was never take money off the table at the beginning, because the goal was for this to be something that we could build, buy a house with, or do something like that.
I remember at one stage you were working to support the family. Business was making no money, and you were literally pumping in wages into the business so that we could cover costs and survive. so important in those foundational years.
I mean, that's the reality for at least like 2 years, the first 2 years. And one of the really big decisions, by the way, I'm coming back to your question.
Yeah.
But one of the really big decisions was it started off as a one-off purchase product. It was about $15. And we knew early on that there was traction. And I don't remember having a conversation with you about this, but we probably did around like changing it to software as a service or a SaaS product where we get subscription revenue.
I do remember that.
And that was a really hard conversation because we were making about $8,000 a month at that time. And then we switched to a subscription, which was like instead of $15 one-off, it went down to, I think, $2 and $3 a month at that time. It was a very low subscription. And we went down to like $1,000 revenue the first month.
That's right, yeah.
So we actually started making money and then just took that off the table completely.
Wow, yeah.
So that was very hard. And we had to have a lot of commitment. We had a lot of conviction in that though because we knew long-term goal was to pay ourselves a wage.
Well, this is what I noticed. Like, I was like, these guys have balls of steel. Like, I'm here as a conservative accountant, all right? Now, coming from conservative accounting world, having some experience at the time with startups, but not much, seeing the way you operate the business with like, you know, the conventional wisdom is the business makes profits for shareholders. And you guys are just like continually don't take any profits, just reinvest, barely taking anywhere near the market wages you deserve, if not less than your employees at times, whatever, like just not doing any nothing selfish or growth mindset. And then you did it all with the app. And then I realized there was a switch to like web, and then there was like all this reinvestment in like web development. I'm like, well, how are these guys going to spend $500,000, $1 million, whatever, starting this web? They just got the app thing going good. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you're taking this huge leap and now you're going web. So what was the motivation behind that?
I mean, when you say that to me now, it sounds crazy because...
It is crazy. It sounds crazy because it is crazy. That's what I was trying to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, we knew... Again, it was just this evolvement of knowledge. So, like, the reality is we went in pretty much knowing nothing. And then there was this, like, absolute panic rush to learn as much as possible. And Christy had to be full-time committed to that, working, like, 18, 19 hours a day, like, sending ourselves into panic attacks. Like, it's not for the faint-hearted, as you know, and especially in tech and in social media. They're two like super fast-moving areas. We learned that for SaaS, web products tend to command a higher value, or lifetime value is what we're thinking about, which is like the lifetime value that someone will pay you, like in cash, over the amount of time that they stay for you. And so we realized we need to build this and then had to find developers. Yeah. So not only did we change from one-off purchase on app, then expanding to 2 apps and increasing our costs, then deciding to go to a revenue model, a SaaS model, and then reinvesting into the web app. We were making nothing. I remember when we were talking about this like 2 days ago, Christy's wage was like the minimum tax threshold.
Yeah.
It was a question at trivia actually. So now it's $18,200.
Yeah, there you go. You should come work here.
Yeah. And we're like, that was really exciting when we first took that. And that was like 2 or 3 years in. Yeah. So again, the mindset was invest.
Yeah.
And
an accountant saying,
you were telling me those opposite.
Save yourselves.
Yeah. I can attest, absolutely.
But I was trying to be a counterbalance. If you guys were too conservative, I probably would have went the other way and said, hey guys, you got to invest a little bit. But you guys are the most ballsiest founders, you know, startup people I'd ever, met with. And, now we know in hindsight, it worked out so well and you had a great exit and you sold the business. And we didn't know that at the time. And there were some times where we thought, man, this business might even fail or close. It was like so many hurdles along the way. What was for you the biggest hurdle and the darkest stage of the business journey?
There's a couple of things. Some involved the tax officers, some involved like partners we were working with. There was a time when like together, because I was an accountant, I was trying to do bookkeeping and I was doing bookkeeping till the end and doing a really poor job of it. So I'm really grateful for your team helping there. Yeah. There's a period in the middle where like we were having troubles on like managing our BAS because, and I'm sure this happens to every business, like how do you pay it every 3 months? Like cash flow was king for us because we were like 1 month away from destruction, which was what you were trying to manage for us. Yes. And we our salary bills were getting up to like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're like, if we can't make this next month, we have to use an overdraft, our personal overdraft that's connected to that. Yeah. We had credit cards that we were maxing out as well. Yeah. So for us, we were like, we were all in.
You guys were all in so hard, man.
And that financial stress takes a
toll on you.
That's probably like the number one thing is like the financial stress was easily the hardest thing. And that came from multiple places.
Yeah.
Not just like tax. It came from like partners we were working with and things not working out the way that we expected.
So at some stages, like, issues with Meta, there was times that were really dark. And me as an advisor, firstly, you're my mate, my Bankstown mate, schoolmate growing up, but also you're my client. I'm freaking out, all right? Now, I don't know if you know or don't know this, but there were times in your business, me looking at the numbers, like I'm on the phone to you saying, this is really bad, but like try do this, try do that, or we've got to try do this. I'm getting off the phone to you. I'm making arrangements, like funeral arrangements for your business. I'm on the phone to the liquidators and trying to get pricing together, saying, listen, I've got this company. They're in deep. There's a big problem. There's legals. Like I feel like I'm getting ready to get an administrator and chucking your company into liquidation and trying to get you and Christy out of there with the least amount of debt and like save you as much money as possible. I'm having these conversations in the background because I've seen where the business has got to. And it's literally, it's dire straits. And if one more thing goes wrong, we're going to have to liquidate this business.
Yeah.
Did it ever feel that real to you that the business could have been gone overnight like that?
Yeah, multiple times actually. So I know like the period you're talking about, there were times when we would actually be making plans like, do we need to shut up shop or do we continue to fight? And the hardest thing in the world is to set yourself up for success in the best way you can, someone to knock you down and then to have to rely on others to help you. So we've been through like a lot of work with lawyers, both in bad times and in good times. And the challenge is like we would do as much work as we could, and then we would have to sort of push that work to to the other party and then leave it. Yeah. And that is one of the hardest things I think in life to do.
Christy's a real founder and a leader, and I admire Christy so much. One of the things that makes me admire her so much is that one of these really hard times in business, I called her as the advisor, as the accountant. I said, Christy, my advice to you is to shut down this business and literally close it. It's the most financially viable and safest thing for you and Tim to do right now is to shut it down. I want you to know that option's on the table. We've made all arrangements, but this could go either way. And Christy literally said to me, there's no way in hell, John, my name's on that thing. There's no chance in hell I'm going to let it sink and let it go down just to protect myself. And she literally took on so much personal risk, and you, of course, and she was willing to take on that risk and literally crush herself and go bankrupt if she had to, just to save the company. And then that's when I thought, all right, I'm dealing with someone with balls of steel and someone I really admire and respect. And that's what it takes to be a successful founder in tech. So, I'm sure you've seen that 1,000-fold on the on your end.
I mean, look, there's like significant ups and downs. So the thing for us was like this from my perspective. So like Chrissy is super strong-willed and super determined to achieve, and she wanted to achieve for herself, but also for the team that we had. And also for the customers that we had, because we had a product that customers really loved, and still love to this day. Yes. And we really wanted to make sure that they had as good an experience as possible. So like during that period of time, there was a really big focus on like messaging to make sure that people feel calm. Yeah. Whether we're calm or not, the swan or the duck analogy. So that was really important to us. For me as well, like I'm doing like CFO, COO roles like in that business, and I'm thinking about scenarios as well to save the business, but also to set ourselves up personally, financially, if we need to as well. So I was like working on those strategies with you and working with lawyers, and then commit to like have that. For me, I like to have the catch-all. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm falling, someone catches me.
Net?
Safety net, that's it. Thank you, No worries. Edit that out, mate.
Yeah.
Safety net. So I like to think of safety nets, multiple layers.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to set those up at the time, but still push forward with everything else. And thankfully, like it worked out.
And man, did it work out? Like, we went through due diligence after due diligence, and so many deals didn't go through. That was obviously painful. What was it like going through the heartache of 6 months, 12 months due diligence, and then a deal doesn't happen for your exit?
Yeah, yeah. That's tough. That's tough. So we actually have been approached, roughly 10 times.
Yeah.
And so we actually never ran a process either. So that's very validating, like to build a business that people want to acquire. And we had interest from like globally,
international,
like international, many different countries, nations and areas. And the first one that we accepted, we actually put in 7 months of work. It was a long period of time. It would have been the largest.
We all put in a bit more work in the first ones, and then progressively less and less, because you learn from experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, but they're not all going to eventuate, and not to get your hopes up, you know?
Yeah. So our hopes were up, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And we actually got 2 business days away from signing. So it's a lot of work to go through all of that due diligence, like countless hours.
Yeah.
And 2 business days before, they said that they had some financial difficulty in their performance.
Yeah.
Their business had changed and they couldn't fund the deal.
Yeah.
And they actually tried to change the deal on us. Yeah. So they actually tried to change
Move the goalpost, those sons of bitches.
That's it.
Yeah.
That was hard, because the reason that we took so long is that we were working out our payout terms. So in a deal, there's an upfront payment. It's a split of cash and equity in that new business that's acquiring you. And then we have the earn-out. Earn-out, if you want to share this with anyone, it could either be time-based or it can be performance-based. So they wanted to put a purely performance-based earn-out.
Yeah.
And we actually learned serendipitously, this is years later, that they weren't planning on paying us the earn-out.
Yeah, wow.
They were trying to give us performance that we couldn't hit.
Yes.
And so it's
why... It's a dirty game. This is why you need advice, right?
You need advice. Like legal advice there at the time.
Yeah.
In the end, that process cost us about $400,000.
Yeah.
And it was worth it in the end, because we actually had to back ourselves again. When they said and offered us a different deal, something else that paid us less, we had to take that hit on the chin, and we decided to say no to their lesser deal, and said, no, we would rather trust ourselves than trust you. We've been through hard times. We can do it again.
Let us toot our own horn for a second.
Yeah.
Along the way, right, what were the pivotal, like if you're giving advice to a tech startup, what's important to look for in an accountant, and what sort of support around what should you be getting from an accountant in the tech startup journey?
I think the absolute first thing is like business structure. And I don't think people will think about that. They're excited about what they're building, and they're not thinking about building a business that they can actually like draw revenue from, that they can pay taxes from. Like, number one, structure. And had I not spoken with you about that, I wouldn't have known how to set that up, and I wouldn't have understood how to separate either bank accounts or business and PAYG and these different things that, like, they sound simple enough to me now, but at the time it was almost new information, things that I'd never thought about. Absolutely number one. The second thing is paying taxes. It's hard to pay tax. I didn't know how much to pay. I didn't know how to pay it. I didn't know how to allocate it. I didn't know how to set up the cash flow for it. So like paying taxes leads on to cash flow management. That's the key thing that you helped me with, is like there's actually options. So in Australia, we obviously have like BAS, business activity statements, that are paid every 3 months. I thought that it had to be every 3 months. You taught me that you can pay monthly. I'm like, monthly? I'm like, this cash flow is king. Like I need money. I need to manage my money every single month. And if I can't manage that monthly, then I can't pay every 3 months, because I'm not going to save $20,000 or $30,000 in 3 months. I'm spending that on development, on developers, on marketers, on paid ads. Like that money can be used elsewhere. And I don't want to pay tax. So why would I allocate something for that? So that's a big thing. Probably the biggest, because that's what we've had issues with in the past, is like I made many mistakes in my bookkeeping, so many. And then like let me backtrack that. One of the things that you'd offered me early on that I didn't think about was acting on a retainer. And I'd never thought about having an accountant on a retainer. I didn't really know the difference between like who does the bookkeeping and like who does BAS, and I thought that was all related, and I didn't know the difference. So you told me the difference in that. The other thing is that having the confidence of someone on retainer that I can call you, that's big for me when I don't know the answer and I don't know what I'm doing in Xero or any other accounting software that I'm using. So like for me, that gave me some confidence that I knew I had help. Yep. So you need an accountant on retainer.
Yeah, man.
Because I've spoken to businesses that don't have that. So therefore they don't have someone on call that can give them advice.
Yeah.
I know that business is going to make a mistake in their BAS or when they do PAYG, and they might not be paying their superannuation every month. Maybe they're trying to do it quarterly and they haven't saved the right amount of cash flow. And when it's early, small business, and even for me coming like 8 years in, cash flow month to month, it was like the number one most important thing, and I need help managing that.
All right. That's so good, man. I'm glad you said all those things because you're just saying all the things that I wish all my clients understood all the time. So that's a very good message. What I want to ask you is we were a small firm at the time. We're still considered in a small, medium category, but there was obviously a lot bigger firms, like tech specialty firms, a lot of other options. What was your key driver behind the decision to go with Latitude Accountants as opposed to one of these either larger or startup orientated firms at the time?
The easy word is trust. We were actually courted by like a top 5 firm as well to work with them early on. So the context for this is early on, Chrissy had trouble trying to raise money for the business because we thought that we wanted some venture capital, and people didn't understand the space. They didn't number one, they didn't understand social media, and they didn't understand tech at the time. And Sydney was a very small community. Over time, it got more successful and people wanted to put money into Plan, and we continued to say no to that. And we were courted by different businesses that wanted us to pay them for the services, including accounting. But for me, the reality is like I know you and I trust you. And the thing that I couldn't discern very well when I'm speaking to someone who wants my business is what are you saying to me that is the truth and what are you saying to me that I want to hear?
Yep.
And someone can whiteboard a scenario to me and I could have met you 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
But I know that you want my money.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to separate that.
Yeah. And I think you made a good decision, like in honest truth, not just because it's us, but I look back at our relationship. You're a successful tech startup from nothing to multi-digit exit to huge company Linktree. Like it's the success story everyone wants. But I look at it and I go, we made some mistakes that we had to learn from, and because we were a small firm, some because we had to learn, some we were a small firm, that maybe some of these bigger firms wouldn't have made. But I guarantee you, when things were hard, those bigger firms wouldn't have had the sleepless nights I had where I was stressing whether it was the meta issue, whether it was the cash flow issue, whether it was R&D issues or tax issues or due diligence or the buyout at the end, the exit. I rode those experiences like it was my own business because of the care that we have for our clients and the relationship we have.
Yeah.
And I don't think, if I was she was on the other foot and I was the guy doing the startup, I don't think going to like big end of town or biggest, most flashy firm or whatever, you're going to get that experience. And I think at the end of the day, that counts for something. And
yeah, well, I think that flexibility would be a word I would use for that. It's like you were very flexible in the way that you worked with us.
Worked with you guys.
And I was able to speak with multiple people in your business, but also still able to have a direct line to you. Whereas with a larger firm, there's not going to be really flexibility in how we can work. And one of the things that I would be a little bit concerned about is like we had ideas that we were able to work through with you. And instead of you just shutting us down, sometimes
casual approach.
Yeah. And sometimes we had something to contribute and you listened.
Yeah.
And sometimes we were just outright wrong and you explained that to us.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect from a larger firm for them to listen to us and perhaps even take on some of the things that we suggest. So like that bit of like growing and working together, that feels good.
So it's the Goldilocks, not the firm that's not too big, not too small, just the right size, mate. Latitude Accountants. All right, let me ask you in closing, final question. You've done everything. You've gone through all the pain, the horror of potentially losing the business, the cash flow stress, the burden, all the potential exits that didn't eventuate, and then finally the big exit comes. Linktree, put terms down, signed, money hits the bank account, deal's finished. Very next day, you wake up, you and Christy, what does that feel like?
The big thing for me was the shedding of financial stress. Like there's a bit of relief that comes with that, but it doesn't quite feel real at the time because you're still in the mindset. Like your adrenaline still runs, and it's been like just over 6 months now, and it's still in the blood. Like when you're thinking about wanting to grow and do something, so it doesn't take away the feelings and the ambition that you have.
Yeah.
But it's nice to remove like some of those things that created a lot of stress. And for us, I mean, the reality is in a customer funded business, it's like cash flow. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
So like
the
for
relief
me,
of cash flow.
Yeah. But it wasn't until that very last day that the money hits the account. That
So it wasn't like, let's go on a huge holiday. That's it. Let's go Vegas. It was more like, like we can breathe. That's it. It's done. There's like
we started working like the next week.
So
the reality is that when you sell and you're joining another business, you're going to be working with them. And so we're actually really grateful. Linktree is a great home for us.
Yes.
And the culture is very similar. Like they're based in Melbourne. They're an Australian business. So like our values are aligned on a lot of things and they want to be really successful as well. We also saw a lot of areas that we could add value. So like you sort of one day you're in Plan, the next day you're in Linktree, and then you're working on bringing everything together.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, look, congratulations. I think I'm so proud to have been associated with the entire Plan journey from the day you guys walked in with a crazy idea to setting it up and, going through all the ups and downs and then finally seeing you guys sell the business successfully and get what you guys wanted. Like for me as an advisor or an accountant to be like in on that journey the whole way means so much. And like you feel so proud as an accountant, and other accountants or advisors will attest to this, that any one of your clients finds success, it makes you feel happy and proud. And like I went on the journey of, the emotions with you guys the whole way. And like I also felt like in a micro sense, of what you guys felt about those feelings too. So thanks for taking me along that journey with you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll say in closing to anyone out there who's like a tech startup that is, looking to jump in, 100%, I think you should jump in and have a chat with an accountant about your idea, get the structure right, do all the things Tim spoke about. And we don't know who or where we're going to find the next plan and the next success story. So, chase your dreams, get the advice and do it right. Timmy, thanks for coming in, man.
Appreciate it.
Legend.